What's going on, everybody? This is dkdynamite, and tonight we're going to be talking about every single launch update that Treyarch just revealed earlier this afternoon. Definitely stay tuned. Now, real quick, as a follow-up to yesterday's commentary, that video was a part of my community quote series where we take some wild claims the community is making and we dissect them within a commentary, whether we agree with it or not. Now, that video was focused on whether or not Black Ops 7 could be releasing early based on a number of different factors. If you still want to check that video out, it's going to be linked down below, since we have a pretty interesting discussion about the state of Battlefield, how the competition may encourage Activision to drop the game sooner, on top of how suspicious it is that, for whatever reason, everything for The Haunting is about to be released by the end of this week, which gives us about a good 2 to 3 weeks before BO7, so that has us wondering what they're going to be doing in the meantime. So Treyarch actually started the day off by confirming again that we're less than a month away from the launch of BO7, which is meant to be November the 14th. Now, that definitely puts to rest the idea that the game itself could be releasing early, since they probably would have announced that by now, and the evidence is getting slimmer by the day. That's why I mentioned in yesterday's video that, although it's a cool conversation to have, I was really leaning more towards the fact that they're probably not going to do it, since Activision has never confirmed the release for Call of Duty, and then just changed that date a couple of weeks before launch. Now, hopefully nobody feels misled by that video. Again, I do make a couple of videos every once in a while in that community quote series talking about some of the wildest claims that I figured are worth a pretty fun discussion, and it also doesn't look like we're going to be seeing any type of early access to BO7, especially the co-op campaign, which I know a lot of you guys out there are hoping for, considering how big the campaign is going to be this year. The closest you'll get to early access is the New Zealand trick, which means that digitally, you could play the game up to, I think, 16 hours early if you change your region on your Activision ID, or go ahead and just change your region on an Xbox. So jumping into the brand new dev talk they ended up dropping, again, we reacted to it live on stream, but I wanted to break it down in more depth here within this video. They first off confirmed that at launch, you can now ADS while sliding, diving, and wall jumping without the need to equip Dexterity. That's going to be default movement now, and I get it, they mentioned before in some beta patch notes, and I think an older dev talk, that they didn't want the movement to be too aggressive, but they do care about fluidity. That's why if you do equip Dexterity, it's just going to make ADSing while performing those actions even smoother. So to put it simply, you just won't need a perk to aim down sights in any situation while playing multiplayer, which I think is going to provide players with more of a competitive edge that I hope we also end up seeing in Warzone, but that's a discussion for a different time. Now, on top of that, and based on beta feedback, they also mentioned that footstep volume has been slightly increased, whereas slide speed and distance have been slightly reduced, but are still going to be useful, while mantle speeds will be faster across the board as well. So they're making the movement pretty quick. Again, we don't have jetpacks, but when you combine some of these changes with the wall jump, people are going to be moving pretty quick inside of the MP. That's why I highly recommend you guys stay as competitive as possible and get yourself an aim controller. You can use code Dynamite to save upwards of $50 or more off of your order, while you can customize every remote with your own paddles that you can map, a custom logo, some grip, and anything else to make the controller the best that it can be. Now, these controllers are incredibly durable and are authentic, whether it's a Sony DualSense or a Microsoft Xbox controller. But with that aside, they've also overhauled the perk system, which I'm pretty excited about because a couple of weeks ago, Matt Scrons himself did confirm that they're going to be switching where some of the perks are actually located, meaning that you're not going to have dominant perks in one slot and not some others. They want to spread things out better. So as they confirmed, they're moving Tech Mask from slot 1 to slot 2, Scavenger from slot 1 to slot 2, Cold Blooded will now be in slot 3 instead of 1, whereas they're going to be moving the Looper perk from slot 2 to 3, and lastly, Tac Sprinter will now be in slot 1 instead of where it initially was in slot 3. They actually showed us some footage of this new perk layout in the recent dev talk, which was nice for a visual, but they're also going to be combining some fan favorite perks, some of which we saw in Black Ops 6, with some of the brand new perks inside of BO7. First off, they mentioned that with Engineer, you're now going to experience all of the benefits of the Shadow perk, which we saw inside of Black Ops 6, allowing you to stay concealed from any enemy equipment. They also mentioned that with Assassin, you're now going to experience the benefits of Vendetta, which actually marks the last known position of an enemy who killed you. And then for Close Shave, allowing you to Panic Knife, you'll now get the benefits of Bruiser, giving you more score and health regeneration every time you perform a finishing move or a melee attack. We also have the Tracker perk, which shows you enemy footsteps throughout the map. They're combining this with Hunter's Instinct, another perk we saw in BO6, which will actually mark the direction of the next closest enemy after you kill somebody. And lastly, they're combining Quartermaster with Gearhead, allowing you to quickly charge not only your field upgrade, but all of your equipment as well. But to remind you guys, the combinations of these perks that I just mentioned, right? We're talking perks we saw in BO6, older perks from back in the day, combined with the newer BO7 perks, that is a separate system and bonus from the specialty perk unlocks. Specialty perks are acquired when you go ahead and equip all 3 of the same color, whether it's 3 greens, 3 reds, or 3 blues, which is something we also saw just recently in Black Ops 6. Now, I think this is brilliant considering Treyarch's offered quite a few perks over the last few Call of Duties, some of which are similar to others, so I think it's a nice strategy of just combining some of the useful ones so that you have a bit of an easier choice when looking at all of these slots. Then again, I also think it's important to note that now each of the slots have some pretty competitive and useful perks that we're going to be able to pick from, and we're not just going to be looking at Dexterity and some of the others that we were equipping back during the beta. But I have to say bravo to Matt Scrons and the design team for making sure that feedback is being listened to, because as of right now, Black Ops 7 multiplayer is shaping out to be one of the best, if not the best multiplayer in years. Yes, Modern Warfare 3 was peak. I also love what they did with Cold War, but BO6 kind of missed the mark on a number of different fronts. Most notably, I think the matchmaking, which luckily has already been addressed, on top of the addition of persistent lobbies we're going to get back in BO7. But I think if you look before the Modern Warfare 19 SPMM era, which began, I think this is going to be one of the strongest multiplayers, which takes into account a ton of feedback that players have been providing for years. Now, Treyarch then confirmed the team is focused on aim assist strength across all ranges, as well as rotational aim assist and the requirement for the right aim stick to be moving in the direction of a target on controller, with more details to come. Raven also followed up after this dev talk released and quoted it by saying, in parity with BO7 multiplayer, we'll be working with Treyarch to explore potential adjustments to rotational aim assist and aim assist strength on controller in Season 1 of Warzone. We'll share more news as we draw closer to the launch of Season 1 later this year, which I believe is going to be, I want to say, early to mid-December. But aim assist has been a pretty complicated conversation over the last couple of years, and it's kind of just been radio silence about this topic, so I'm happy to see that Black Ops 7 is the game to kind of break that barrier down and finally address this, to where the game is a lot more fair for both controller and mouse and keyboard players. Now, to round things out, Treyarch did give us a bit of a verbal roadmap of what to expect next as far as BO7 marketing. Considering Black Ops 6 is pretty much over as of later this week, they're going to be doing more blog posts, intel drops, and probably dev talks with the following topics. They mentioned maps, modes, weapons, and even progression. Does this mean they're done marketing zombies? I don't think so. The recent zombie dev talk did tease that they have more to share in the coming weeks, and I'm sure zombies is going to be mentioned in several of those topics I just mentioned. We don't have a full list of the weapons yet. There's still a bit of info that I think we can use for the MP maps, like the TAC maps themselves, more details on 20v20 skirmish, which was absent from the beta. At around October 21st last year for BO6, this is a couple days before the full launch of the game, they dropped a full progression blog talking about what you're going to be unlocking with the regular progression levels, 1 to 55. They mentioned what most of the prestige rewards were going to be, like operator skins and even blueprints. And in the days leading up to that blog post coming out, Treyarch also kept changing their profile picture to different prestige icons, which gave us an indication of what every single legacy icon would look like from prestiges 1 to even master. So I think it's been intentional that we learned so much more about weapon prestiging, the camo system, and everything else to do with BO7, whereas some things are being kept a secret, and I'm betting those secrets will be unveiled within the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now, while they've already shared what every mastery camo looks like for Black Ops 7, they could still probably give us a dedicated blog or just include info in the progression blog about what some of the camo challenges are for each game mode. That's something they did do with the BO6 progression blog last year, so also expect more clarity on that relatively soon. But that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave our thoughts down below in the comment section. What are your thoughts on our brand new Day 1 launch updates, which Matt Scrons himself did confirm earlier this afternoon? Do you think we'll get additional marketing later this week? Leave our thoughts down below. Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.